All right. Hi, folks. I am Karen Young with Solano Resource Conservation District. Good to see all of you here today. We are here for the Solano Fire Safe Council meeting. So if you are hoping to be at something else, you are not on that meeting. Thanks for joining us for our May meeting. You might have seen in our emails about this one that we will be focusing on various public alert and warning program and situational awareness tools today. So we're going to have a lineup of presenters to share various tools that we can use to find out about emergencies in the county, get evacuation orders, just find additional information about situations going on throughout our county and the state. And hopefully this will be good information for you to share with your communities. So getting into just a few things, I've got our agenda up here. If you would help us out by introducing yourself in the chat, that would be great. Just name and where you're coming from. We're not doing Zoom registrations anymore, so we're going to try to see who's coming to our meetings. Getting introductions will be one way to keep track of that. And also it's a great way for you to see who else is in our meeting. So I see a few of us chiming in there. Thank you very much. And while we work on getting those introductions in there, just a few bits of Zoom housekeeping. We do have a bit of time at the end budgeted for Q&A. So if you've got questions, either sit on them or put them in the chat box, and we'll get to them toward the end. If you want to speak it aloud, then just click on the raise hand, or feel free to unmute during Q&A. Otherwise, please do remain muted just to minimize background noise. And we do have, let me do closed captions. Captions should be available if you use that feature in Zoom to enable the closed captions. Tracy, is there another word that I'm missing there for that? Okay. And feel free to just ask for help in the chat if you need it. We'll be posting our recording and slides on the, oh, I didn't update this slide, the Solano Fire Safe Council's website. So I'll make sure to follow up with that once everything is online. So, we have a number of different tools throughout, or a number of different tools at our disposal for getting information about fires, other emergencies, and because it seems like whenever we talk with somebody, they've got some new app or tool to share, or there have been some updates or improvements made to other tools that we use. We figured that we would have a roundup of at least some of the ones that we know of, and if there's ones that aren't on here that you know of, please feel free to share them. We're going to get started with Robin Rains and Jenny Novelli from Solano OES, presenting briefly on Alert Solano, which is the county's tool. So Robin, I do see you are in here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And hi. There we go.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hello, I'm Robin Rains. I'm the Emergency Services Manager for Solano County OES. With me from my team is Jennifer Novelli. She just texted me that her computer froze, so I don't know that she's going to be able to talk right now, but she is also here with us. We're going to talk about our public alert and warning program that exists for Solano County, which is branded as Alert Solano. So Alert Solano is a big name for a lot of different tools. So our primary mode of sending messages is from a product called Everbridge. That's where you're getting your phone calls, your text messages, emails. That's where our primary messaging comes from. So if you go to alertsolano.com, And when you sign up, you're signing up for Everbridge. That's the platform that we use to send those messages to you. So that can come to you in any different format that you have identified in the system. So you can have multiple landline phone numbers, you can have multiple cell phone numbers, you can request to be called, you can request to be to receive text messages, emails. I think we can still do fax, and then there's TTY messages also. You choose what numbers and in what order you want those messages to come. For example, I get text messages on my personal cell phone first. If it can't reach me and I don't acknowledge that message, then it cycles through to the next method until I acknowledge the message. So if you've signed up for Alert Solano, then you know it's always asking you to confirm that you've received the message. That's so that it stops trying to contact you. So it's really important that everyone in your home be signed up for Alert Solano individually. So we learned this lesson during LNU fire that we had couples that were signed up where only one person in the family was signed up and they received the message, but the other person in their home did not receive the message, which becomes really problematic if one of the two of you isn't home. So if the person that receives the message isn't home at the time they acknowledge that they got the message, the person that's at home that's actually in the area that needs to take action to protect themselves, they're not getting the message. So that was really problematic. So it's really important that everybody in the home receive messages, sign up for Alert Solano and receive messages. Now, that's only one of the platforms that exists within the umbrella of Alert Solano. So we can also send Nixle messages through Alert Solano. A Nixle message you have to register for by texting your zip code to 888-777. You can text any zip code you want to receive Nixle messages to that short code, and you'll get messages until you text stop, and then it'll stop sending you those messages. I am signed up for every zip code in Solano County and every zip code in Napa County because that's my family spread out all over the place. So I want to get messages for everybody that's going to be impacted so that I know that what messages are coming to them so I can make sure that they're getting them. Messages on Nixle are going to be different. So the types of messages that we typically would send on Nixle would be more generalized information. So a Nixle message can only be sent by text and email, and it can only be sent to an entire zip code versus an Alert Solano message that allows us to target a specific geographical area that needs to take protective action for themselves. So when Solano County sends a message out, we will only send a message if we need you to take protective action. That means you have an evacuation warning, you have an evacuation order, or you have a shelter in place order, which means we need you to go inside and stay inside. That's what a shelter in place order means. That's going to be used during like a hazmat incident or like a police action where we need you to stay inside to stay safe. So those are the three types of messages that you're going to get from us. And we send messages based on state guideline, which says that we will target the message to only the residents that are required to take the protective action for themselves. So that's why we use the mapping tool. So the larger community messaging that we would use for Nixle would be something that would impact everybody within a specific zip code. That's going to be something like really poor air quality, where people with respiratory issues are potentially going to be impacted. So we would send a message to a whole zip code, something like that. It's larger level messaging. It doesn't give us the ability to target, and it also really limits our ability to contact you because it's only by text and email. The other way we do messaging is through high-low sirens. So the sheriff's office has high-low sirens. They'll drive down the street. They'll do the message. It sounds like the European siren. If you watch, on TV and movies, that's what it sounds like. So they'll drive through the neighborhood. If you hear a high-low siren, that's your cue that you need to tune in somewhere to get more information about what's going on. That could be on KUIC. We send emergency information through KUIC on the radio. We'll put information on our Facebook at Solano OES, at Solano Sheriff. We'll put information on our website, solanocounty.com/getreadysolano. There's a number of different places that you can go to get vetted information on the incidents. It's important to note that we do put all of our information on Facebook. You don't have to have a Facebook account to access it. If you Google Facebook at Solano OES, it'll come up. You don't have to have a Facebook account to get to it. We also send information through traditional media. It's going to be radio, it's going to be TV, newsprint, all of it. The other ways that we send information is through iPause, and iPause includes wireless emergency alerts and then the emergency alert system. And I'm going to see if Jenny can get on and talk about iPause.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let's see if I can actually share my, oh yeah, I can't screen share. That's okay.
I can make that happen. Just give me one
Okay.
moment.
Sounds good.
All right, you should be able to now.
Okay, let's see. I'm on my Mac, so it has an error, but let's see. We'll just talk about it. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. Just give me a second. Okay, so IPAWS stands for Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. That does fall under our Public Alert and Warning Program. So just to start off, one of the alerts that falls under that, or ways to alert under IPAWS, is the Emergency Alert System. You might see the acronym EAS being delivered in that way. So the way EAS messages have been delivered, they're kind of the most historical ones. It's been around the longest. We deliver those via AM radio, FM radio, and also satellite radio. So you may have heard those very loud tones that come across and interrupt, your music on the radio or your TV. That's an EAS message. So anything that needs to be broadcasted to a large area via cable or satellite TV, we would use that, for a wildfire or something, something major. I know that they did do that during LNU. I wasn't here yet, but Robin did let me know that WIA messages were used during that time. So WIA stands for Wireless Emergency Alerts. Those have kind of been new to the iPod system, but have been around for a while as well. And we deliver WIA messages via cell phone and mobile devices based on your location. So if a WIA message is sent and you enter that geographical location after the alert was already sent out, if it's framed for like 4 hours and you enter that area, you will still receive that WIA message on your cell phone. We use those even if cell networks are overloaded. You can still get a WIA message to your cell phone. So it's a good avenue for us when we're trying to reach as many people as possible. We would use EAS messages, WIA messages, and then all the other tools that Robin mentioned. The last part of IPAWS is NOAA, or NOAA Weather Radio. NOAA stands for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So the way that falls under IPAWS is alerts are delivered through NOAA Weather, and they broadcast the emergency and weather information directly from the nearest National Weather Service office. So that's just a little overview of what IPAWS is. Robin, do you have anything you want to add?
Not to iPods, just want to touch again on some of the other ways that we alert you, or that other things that are included in a public alert and warning program. So one of the main pieces that's super important that I think people forget about is that technology is always going to fail somebody at some point. There's so many limitations to it. So one of the really, really important pieces of a solid public alert and warning program is what we call neighbor helping neighbor. That's I get the message and I call my grandma to make sure that she got the message, because I'm signed up to receive messages for her area, and she may or may not have gotten it, or she may or may not have understood what the message meant when it came to her. So we had that issue in LNU, and there's a number of reasons why somebody might not have gotten a message in that instance, even if they were signed up to receive messages. The systems were overloaded. Once we send it out, it's onto your cell phone carrier to send it to you, and for some reason not everybody got them. We could be sitting next to each other and have the same cell phone service, and I might get it and you might not get it. And I can't explain that to you technology wise on why that would happen, but it does. So it's important. It's an important piece, that calling on your friends and family to make sure that they know that they're going to be impacted by a message. That happened a lot in LNU, where we got feedback from people saying, hey, the way I found out is neighbor knocked on the door. My neighbor got the message and I didn't. And that's still a win for us. That's still, you got the message, you were able to get out. There wasn't a loss of life in that situation. So the neighbor helping neighbor piece is a really important part of a strong public alert and warning program. And I just want to throw that out there. And we're going to be available to, well, I'm going to stay on until the end and answer any questions that you have, but I know I'm probably over my time, and we have a lot of other partners to talk about some other cool tools to give you situational awareness on what's happening in your community.
Thank you, Robin. Briefly, I think we can do a few minutes of questions now, or save questions for the end. Are there questions for Robin? I'm looking for our next presenter and trying to get that queued up. Oh, there's Robin. Are you seeing the ones in the chat?
So yeah, I was just responding. We do have a lot of this information on our website. If you go to alertsolano.com, it will take you to the website. There's some FAQs on there, and then links on wireless emergency alerts, and then actually a link also to the guideline that we use for public alert and warning. We are working on expanding the FAQs to better describe the information that we just went over, but we do have some of that available to you. One-page cheat sheet that tells people how to sign up for Alert Solano. No, there's not a single page that describes all of that, but we can work on it. This includes Zone Haven. So I just want to note, Zone Haven is a partner tool to the Public Alert and Warning Program. It's not a public alert and warning system. It's a partner because we're going to use that information to assist us in more quickly sending alerts out to people. So it's important to know what your evacuation zone is, because we're going to put that in the message that we send out. We'll also put the boundaries of the area that's being evacuated, so that will still be included, the north of, south of, east of, west of. But if you're like me and are directionally challenged, I know my zone number, and if I see that, I know that's me. That's going to be helpful for you. So that information is going to be very helpful. It's a partner to the Public Alert and Warning, but we'll send that message to you through Everbridge, what you guys would know as Alert Solano. So there is links to go and find your zone on our solanocounty.com/getreadysolano. I'll put that in the chat also. So make sure you are going on there to find out what your evacuation zone is. But point taken on the one-page cheat sheet. Are the protocols in place when you alert your cell phone providers to confirm that they received the message and confirmation the provider sent out the message? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know what legally they're required to tell us on whether or not they sent the message or confirmed any of that confirmation. It's a legal question for the providers.
Robin, do you have, when you send out the alert, does it say reply yes if you got this or no or anything like that to provide that?
It should say reply yes if you received the message.
So that could get to that, what Leanne was talking about.
Oh, did I
You
miss
guys
one?
would know if a whole section or a bunch of people didn't get it, perhaps through a cell phone provider.
Honestly, a lot of people don't reply.
Right.
Yeah, I think the data would be kind of skewed, because like Robin said, people can see it, but they're not pressing that click confirm receipt to acknowledge. We would like it if everyone could do that. Maybe we can do better about communicating that. That would help us. But we also, the data breaks down saying like it's confirmed, unconfirmed, not reached at all, which could possibly mean that person's number is no longer, I don't know, in our system. I don't know exactly how that breaks down, but we have a little bit of data that we can go off of when we send alerts out.
Putting our link in there too to our preparedness resources page. That's the Get Ready Solano site.
All right, thank you, Robin and Jenny. And we'll have more time for questions at the end. And we've got a 510 number on here that called in. Not sure if that might be our next presenter. Is that Sarah Paul by any chance? Gonna give you a minute. All right, we'll keep trying to get a hold of Sarah, and then in the meantime, we will go ahead and move to the next tool that we were gonna talk about, which is Pulse Point, and that's going to be Christian Wovoda from Yolo County OES.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Kristen Wovoda from Yolo County OES. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Pulse Point. Pulse Point I implemented in Yolo County back in my other position when I was the EMS administrator, but it's become a tool that a lot of our community uses and our fire districts use. So Pulse Point was invented to notify public of cardiac arrests. And so if you were CPR trained, you were in the area, it would ping your phone, let you know that cardiac arrest was happening, and you could go provide life-saving CPR. What it's kind of morphed into and how Yolo County has really morphed into using Pulse Point is using it as an awareness tool. A lot of our public uses it to see what's happening, because you can see all the calls that are going out on dispatch, who's assigned to it, where the calls are happening. And that's become a great tool. Winters actually had an apartment fire in the beginning of the year, and the apartment building next door got ready to evacuate based on watching Pulse Point, not by what was happening outside, and started getting their neighbors together and helping their access and functional needs and vulnerable population evacuate the apartment based on Pulse Point. Pulse Point does cost money. It has to be set up through the dispatch center, and you pay a per population price, and you pay that price per dispatch center. So in Yolo County, we have 2 dispatch centers. So we pay the same price for both dispatch centers. It's not discounted. It's an all for everything. And then we worked with all our fire districts to go through and decide what calls would be shown. And I'm going to show you my screen for the people who haven't seen it. I have a desktop option up right now, and so I can show that if it lets me. My computer has been acting up. All right. Well, it doesn't look like it wants to allow me to share due to my privacy issues, but let me see if I can get this to work still. All right, it's not going to let me do it without me turning off Zoom and coming back on. But what Pulse Point will do, it'll show you every call that's happening in the last 24 hours, any current calls. It also maps it. And then the next thing it does is you can turn on the radio feature, so you can listen to the live radio communication going back and forth. So it's a great awareness tool. We were just doing disaster preparedness talks for our seniors throughout Yolo County, and almost all of them had downloaded Pulse Point, and they use it for situational awareness, looking at traffic, looking at what's happening in their neighborhood when they hear sirens. It doesn't give any identifying information. It gives different symbols. So a medical emergency is a heart, fire is a little flame, a traffic accident is 2 vehicles, crimes and stuff like that usually say unknown, and they stay in an area. It's a great tool. Interesting how it morphed from being a cardiac arrest tool to being a complete situational awareness tool, and a way for the public to see what's happening and listening to the radio. But I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions. I know Solano County is currently not on Pulse Point, but a lot of the Bay Area is, and then a lot of the areas to the east of Solano County are on. And thank you, Tracy, for sharing the link.
How long ago did Yolo implement it, and what was the startup cost?
So startup costs and ongoing costs are the same. So Yolo County, I can't speak to what the cost might be today because Pulse Point might have changed it going forward, but the contract with Yolo County is $9,000 per dispatch center. So since we have 2, it's $18,000 a year. And that is complete updating. It does have an AED feature, but I wasn't getting into that side where you can track your AEDs and so forth, more so talking on the situational awareness of the tool. I do know San Diego, who joined, their contract is around $28,000 a year for their dispatch center. And so per dispatch center, per population, doesn't matter if your population of, let's just say you have one dispatch center that only does one city, they're going to do it based on your county for your contract. That's the only weird caveat. It's very frustrating to pay the same price for all dispatch centers.
We have 6 dispatch centers in Solano County, if you are unsure, and that is not including Medic Ambulance or Travis Air Force Base.
Yeah, so that's the only downside to Pulse Point is the cost feature of it. But Yolo County is still using it, and I don't think we'll ever be able to get rid of it now that the community has seen it as a situational awareness tool, and our fire department also likes it because it's another visible way of seeing calls happening around them. I see somebody's hands up for a question.
Yes. So I don't have a question because I have Pulse Point connected with the Winters Fire Department.
Yep.
And I just wanted to let other people know that Pulse Point goes a little beyond what you had indicated. And by that, I mean, when I receive a Pulse Point notification, I'm aware of the exact location of where the incident is occurring, what type of incident it includes, which could be prescribed fire, wildland fire, emergency medical, lift assist, everything. And also, it also indicates what engines, what equipment are on the way, who is responding, so that we have a good idea of what exactly is going on and how do we best prepare for a fire.
Perfect.
I
Thank
think
you.
it is a great tool. And also last fall at one of the Solano County coordination meetings, sitting next to Paul Dalen, my emergency notification went off for a fire in northern Solano County before Paul's did as a firefighter. So that is my point about Pulse Point, that it's really great.
And I think I was finally able
Thanks.
to share my screen. My technology decided to be friends with me, and I only put a couple in here because I have more on my app, but just to kind of see, it shows the recents. I have Winters, I put Woodland, I put, I think, our Cape Valley and Madison in there. And then it maps out the incident. So you can zoom in. Oops, if I can do both without messing up. You could zoom over and click on it, and it'll tell you what it is and where it's at. The live radio feature, it explains the unit status, so you can see who's dispatched, who's en route, who's on scene. And then you can look at the incidences that have taken place in the last 24 hours for the areas that you've signed up for. So we can see right now Winters had a medical call. And then our last one going down to 358 for the city of Woodland.
It is a great tool. It's Robin again. I just want to clarify one point. So it doesn't give the exact location. It'll give like 100 block or nearest cross streets, just because it does have medical, like your medical calls. So to respect privacy, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen, it doesn't give the actual addresses, right?
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't give the actual address, but it is very close. When you look at the map and you know your neighborhood, you can most definitely figure out where it's happening, but it does keep it to an area or a cross street, as you see First Street and Russell in Winters. But the map details are pretty close of where the accident took place, or details like that. But it is nice for radios too, to listen to whatever traffic's happening.
For sure. We've had some people concerned about privacy because it does show medical calls. So it's not showing your specific address.
Correct. And you can too, when you set it up, I think that probably took the longest part, was getting all the fire departments and the dispatch agencies to agree to the call type. So any agency dispatched out of one dispatch center must all agree to what call types will be shown on the screen. And that can be difficult to get everyone to be on the same page.
Thank you very much for sharing. It's always easy to see a tool and think, my goodness, that looks really great and easy. And then hearing more about the back end of it and the difficulties in getting everybody on board with all the different call types and the administration of it and the cost
Yeah, the cost.
is eye-opening.
It is opening, but they do manage all the IT backends and upgrades and all that. So once it is set up, it is pretty hands-free, but it is a beast to get going and to get everyone on board with it.
Well, thank you very much. And if we have more questions on Pulse Point, we can take those at the end. But I'm going to switch over now to Nick Russell with Watch Duty.
Hi, good evening all. Thank you very much for having us. I'm taking Sarah's place, so forgive me a little bit here. I'm kind of catching myself up. But I want to introduce Watch Duty. We were born in Sonoma County and then went to Lake and Mendocino counties and now all throughout California. As far as the Western US, we're Colorado West now as of May 1st this year. So for those not familiar with Watch Duty, I see someone posted it here in the chat. Watch Duty, we're nonprofit. We are volunteer driven. We do have some staff, but we are real-time fire information. We use sources such as Pulse Point, which was mentioned previously, but most of our reporting originates from radio scanner traffic we listen to. We also have some fire personnel as part of our group who contribute information as well. And our latest move here, we have created a box that we've codenamed Echo, and it listens for dispatch tones throughout counties in California and then posts to our internal messaging system. A lot of people ask how Watch Duty gets the information so quickly, and that's how, because we're getting the alert at the same time the fire station is getting the alert to come respond to a vegetation fire, vehicle accidents, what have you. Watch Duty is primarily vegetation fires. We don't do much in the way of structure fires unless there is a threat to the vegetation surrounding the structure. Otherwise, we will not report on it. Trying to think of what else here. So our app is free, will always be free. There's a lot of features on the app that we'll be adding as time goes on. One of those features coming up is going to be flight tracking, and that'll be part of a paid membership. But all the tools that Watch Duty has for everyone to use that revolve around life and safety will always be free. So the push notifications, the evacuation alerts that we send out, those will always be free. We're just moving in a direction to support ourselves and sustain ourselves a little better. So there'll be the membership model that'll be introduced in late July. We are also actively seeking volunteers in Solano County as well, but outside in other states. If folks know anybody who would like to volunteer and contribute with that, we do have a volunteer link on the site that was posted in the comments here. Watch Duty is very active in Solano County throughout the fire season. A lot of the times you will not get a push notification be for a very small fire, 50 by 50 roadside spots, anything that doesn't pose a threat to life or property. But once there is a potential for a threat there or a evolving major wildfire, then we'll go ahead and push the big red button and send everybody push notifications, and you get those chimes playing on your phone. So one thing I would suggest, if for anybody who downloads Watch Duty, look at the map and you'll see that there's a lot of what we call silent incidents that are the flame with the bell and a slash through it. And that's for, like I said, smaller incidents, no threat to life or property. Yeah, so we got the map here up on the screen. You'll also see there's a green icon that says RX, and that's for prescribed burns. So burns that are to mitigate further fire risk. We try to get those posted up, and we have a channel for fire departments and other prescribed burn practitioners to submit their data to us. So we encourage anybody to pass that message along, and we're happy to get it posted up. So when folks see smoke, they're not inundating 911 with, calls that don't need attention. Currently in the app, there's some layers. If you look in the top right there, you'll see a layers button, and we have the air quality index. So a lot of folks want to see that and see what the air quality is around them. So during fire season, this is very important. And we also have fire history on there, which will show you the last 5 years of fire history and the names around you. So basically our goal here is to find some of that hard to find information, get it displayed on the map, and then try to eliminate folks who are trying to track wildfires having to switch between 3 or 4 different apps. So as time goes on, we'll continue to develop new tools, some paid, some free, that will continue to eliminate the need for 5 different apps to stay up to date on fire information. I know Cole is also here with us, who is a watch duty staff reporter. I'm not sure if he wants to add anything to this, but I think that's a good general overview of what watch duty does. And I'm not sure, do you want to save these questions until the end?
We've got time for a few questions.
Okay, so I'm just gonna glance at these really quick here. Flight tracking question, only firefighting and command aircraft or all aircraft? So right now the goal is any aircraft that is capable of aerial fire suppression, we would add into that. And that would include some local police helicopters that are equipped to put a bucket on if necessary. So basically any aircraft that could be involved with fire suppression would be included in that. And then this final question here, are you pulling in CAL FIRE incident data from their website? And the answer to that question is no. And we love and cherish our relationship with CAL FIRE, but a lot of the reason for the creation of the app is because of their twice a day updates. And we want to make updates much more frequently than that. Potentially every half hour. As the incident evolves, we're going to continue to give updates, and we don't find that CAL FIRE has enough information on their website in a timely manner to convey that. But with that being said, at the end of the days, on large incidents, we will utilize their report on their website, and sometimes just copy it right over, transpose it to our stuff, and sometimes we will disseminate the information and re-report it from their report, but we are not pulling our data from them. Aircraft, air attack, aircraft OV-10. Yes, so OV-10 is CAL FIRE's fleet for air attack, so all of them will be on the list of flight tracking aircraft.
Well, thank you very much, Nick.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And if there are additional questions on watch duty, we can go ahead and take those later. And the last tool that we had planned to go over today was the Alert California fire cameras that are aimed at various locations throughout the state. And here to talk about that today is John Walsh from PG&E.
Hello, everyone. John Walsh. I'm a public safety specialist with PG&E, which means I'm basically a liaison officer to local agency, police, fire, first responder type agencies, and county OES. We're one of the technical partners that you could say with Alert California. It used to be Alert Wildfire, and we've helped sponsor the placement of many cameras throughout the state. And so I can talk at a high level about it. If Karen or someone wants to show the website on your shared screen.
Got that up.
Great. So you can see all those little icons on California are locations of cameras. Now PG&E helped support a lot of these cameras. CAL FIRE has a lot of cameras, and then there's other entities that have cameras. And basically the university down in San Diego and Reno in Nevada, built this backbone to put all this together. It's kind of born out of what happened down in San Diego in 2003, the Cedar Fire, a very large fire, fatalities, firefighter fatality, including a local firefighter out of Nevada in a local government strike team over there. So very impactful fire, very historic, large fire. And groups started to look at, we need real-time data and we need a backbone to put it together. And so it basically all developed out of that site. So this is public facing. Anyone can get on this and have access to these cameras. You could do it on a mobile device or you could do it on a desktop. You're going to want it to know your location, so it will automatically take you to cameras most proximal to you. If you're interested in the incident not proximal to you, you would have to kind of play around with it and figure out what happens. But just for the sake of time, if you're interested in this, go to that website and play around with it. It's pretty intuitive. It's easy to use. It's very interesting. And for those in the rural environments where urban interface fires are of a concern, this is a great awareness tool. Everything that was talked about are great tools, and this can just give you some visual. As a former first responder, I loved having these cameras. This gave me information before our units got on scene or before CAL FIRE aircraft got on scene and gave a verbal reporting conditions. I could look at what that smoke column's doing and make some judgments based on the resources we have committed, and we could go ahead and increase that amount of resources or hold back some resources, et cetera, based on what we saw on the cameras. And at nighttime, you can see what's going on also, because it's a little bit different, but you get a pretty good sense of what's going on. And it's great for emergency managers in an office environment to be able to glean, or at home, and have some awareness of what's going on in their community. And it could really get the wheels turning a lot quicker than we used to before. If you have loved ones or you live in an area, it could be enough to have you make early decisions about evacuations or caring for an elderly person in your family, or a neighbor that might not be able to take care of themselves. It gives you some firsthand knowledge. So PG&E is very interested in this because we've had some issues with fire starts, their infrastructure, and all these fires also impact the infrastructure, which impacts the community with loss of power. It also impacts the ability to get firefighting resources to and from an incident due to infrastructure failure, blocking roads with wires on the ground and everything. So we use all of these tools you have mentioned already to give us awareness and to deploy resources where we can help protect our infrastructure, give our control centers awareness where they can start tracking the information, and they can start throwing remote switches to make safe for first responders to cut circuits out so that the wires that are down won't be energized, or there's a better chance that they won't be energized, and make the situation safe. And it's really helped us save our infrastructures. We have 45 fire engines in the company, type 6.5 engines, or it's basically a large pickup chassis, small tank of water, and a couple crew members. And we will deploy them after checking in with the incident and start spraying fire retardant and removing fuel around our poles ahead of the fire front. And it's been very beneficial, and it really helps in the repopulation efforts after a fire. So all of these things weren't really possible unless we had that early awareness to get things going. We can't react as fast as the fire department. We have to spool up, and there's some time it takes to get resources en route, procured, and staffing going, and it helps. So that's how we use these particular tools. Watch Duty has been a great tool. I know a lot of first responders use it to track what's going on in the state, get ready for deployments on strike teams, etc. I use it to get awareness on an incident before I've got good intel from other sources. We're getting people reporting in, and we can report up to our Hazard Awareness Center, which collects all the data from my colleagues and from our MODIS satellite data that we get from our weather stations and from the cameras. We can make a lot of decisions and deploy resources like myself to go to the incident and be a resource or subject matter expert for the incident commander, and deal with the gas and the electric utility, primarily to make safe for first responders, and then to help protect the infrastructure from further damage. So any questions? I talked very high level on the cameras, basically because I really encourage you to get in there and play with it on a mobile device and play with it on a desktop, and see how the different tools in there work and how you can look at the cameras. Some fire agencies have access to be able to move the cameras around. CAL FIRE does, and some local government agencies do, like your larger county agencies. But the cameras can rotate and be moved to align on a particular fire. And we use the cameras to triangulate and help find the fires. Now, the gentleman from Watch Duty talked about a great feature they're adding to Watch Duty, and that's going to be the flight tracker. So when the incident comes in, I usually have 3 to 4 different screens going. I've got a flight tracker going on. I've got a screen just dedicated to all the apps that are running radio scanners. And then I've got Pulse Point where applicable. And then I've got some screens going with our infrastructure and trying to overlay where the fire is. And it's really important for us, especially in rural areas, to find out where that fire is at. And the one thing I look for is the command aircraft, and where they're circling, I drop a pin in a map right in the donut that aircraft has created, because the command aircraft circles at higher elevation above the fire. And the fire is basically, for all intents and purposes, in the middle of that spot. So when that feature is available on Watch Duty, that will give you some great awareness where that particular fire is. And then you could use the alert California and then figure out what cameras might be applicable to get you into that position. And then you can use multiple cameras. If you don't have that aircraft working with Watch Duty, you can triangulate with various cameras to get a rough idea where that fire is, looking at that fire from different camera angles. And that's very useful. And I found out in my previous career with the fire department that did a lot of work with the ranching community, and they loved this tool. That they liked the camera tool and they liked the Pulse Point because it gave them the information they needed to take care of each other. They'd band together, they'd open gates, move cattle to different pastures, get them away from the fire. They would open gates and direct fire crews in so that they can get to the seat of the fire much quicker. And it's just a great tool. So I'm glad that you're taking this topic on and talking about it. And it's great to use these technologies out there. We use them, we really rely on them, and they've helped the company greatly. And that trickles down to helping the community at large by ensuring power stays on. We protect the infrastructure and keep things going and get repopulation going much quicker than we could in the past. I'm available if there might be any questions. That's all I've got.
Thank you, John. Just keeping an eye on our timing. It is 6:20, and we'll go ahead and save questions for a little bit later. I'm going to turn things over now to Tracy Kettleman, and she'll be leading us in a brief discussion.
Thanks, Karen. And Nick, I'm going to call on you in just a moment because this is what we want to do now is talk about what we heard. And personally, I'm really inspired. There's so much more information that's so much easier to get now than even just a year ago, or definitely more than 2 years ago. And one thing we heard from you here in the chat, and I think in your questions, that it's a bit overwhelming, and a lot of you are actually familiar with the fire space, but if we think about our neighbors who are less familiar with it, it might be a lot of information. So one thing the RCD is going to do is put this together as an article to put on the Solano Fire Safe Council website. So we'll put that there and welcome your input there. What we want to hear from you all now is, given all this information is out there, and given we're getting ready to go into what's likely to be another interesting and exciting fire season, are there any gaps out there? Are there areas that are without coverage? Are there any other tools that we need to be aware of that we didn't discuss here today? And so we want to just kind of open that up. In starting that, Nick, did you want to respond to what John was asking or make a comment about something between watch duty and the alert cameras?
Yeah, I was reluctant to talk about this, but we've actually partnered with Alert California now, and in the coming, I'm going to say 2 months, and I'm saying that long, it should be sooner than that. But we actually now have back-end access into the cameras. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of these fire camera shots in our reporting. Previously, we would go grab those shots and add them to our reports for context and so people could understand what they were looking at from afar. But now that's going to be happening automatically, where we're going to be snagging camera shots of new starts and integrating that into the app, and that will be a free part of watch duty. That's not going to be a paid feature. And I really just want to give PG&E as much of an equal shout out as I can here, because PG&E is doing tons of work too. Anybody who listens to online scanner feeds like Broadcastify, PG&E is actually standing up their own Broadcastify feeds in areas that lack scanner feeds for folks to listen to, and they're making them available to the public for free. I know I have a list of at least 3 of the feeds they've established. I don't know if people are interested in that, but I'm happy to forward those along to you guys to see those as well. It's really incredible work they're doing, and for an electric utility to be launching radio scanner feeds, I think that's a pretty big deal and should be noted. And then also something else we're going to be adding this fire season is evacuation maps. We see a big hole where folks are trying to figure out, do they go look on Zone Haven? Do they go look at Code Red? Do they go look at their county's OES site? How do we find out if our area is under evacuation, and what is our evacuation zone? So that's going to be something that's added into the watch duty map. And so if a zone becomes an evacuation order or warning, you will see that on our map and color styling to show. I'm not sure that we've decided on colors, but it should be something simple to understand. If it's time to go, it's red. If it's in the middle of the road, it's going to be yellow. But that's a big problem. I'm sure everyone's experience is, when do we evacuate? Do we evacuate? And what zone are we in? So we're just trying to kind of close one hole in reporting there. But I think everything that's been talked about here tool wise is absolutely wonderful, and what you guys are doing is wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. And yeah, please send those broadcast sites to Karen, and she can include them in the article. And one thing I definitely heard tonight in terms of gaps is that watch duty needs some volunteers in Solano County. So if you're interested in this kind of thing and want to help being part of getting really good and locally fact-checked information out, then follow that link I put in the chat earlier. Just go to watchduty.org. So what do y'all think? Go ahead and raise your hand, either through the app or just raise your hand or turn on your camera. Any thoughts, information that we need? Paul, are you queuing up there because you want to talk? Or you just happen to be up on the top of my screen?
No, I just happen to be there. But in one of the things that we use, at least for firefighters, when we're having issues with our pagers, is it's either off the internet or it's an app on your cell phone. It's called broadcastify.com.
Nick mentioned that.
Yeah, and a lot of our firefighters are using it. I think there is a fee if you want to be able to go back and listen to recordings of certain things, but it can be an app that can be added to your cell phone. I personally don't have it on my phone. I haven't evolved to that point compared to the young people, but it's actually a really neat thing to have. And you can monitor different agencies just by inputting what the name of the agency is, and it will lock on to that frequency and monitor it.
Great, thank you. I just put that in the chat. So it sounds like we've come a long way, right, in the last year or two. And I think filling a lot of these information gaps. Any other thoughts on, like, what have you learned? What have you found best practices? How do we get this information out to all of our neighbors, to the public in general, so folks are really aware this summer and this fall? I suspect a lot of you in this room have some thoughts about that, so don't be shy.
Hey, Tracy, it's David.
Go for it.
So a number of items. One, I am a massive advocate of Pulse Point. I think Pulse Point is an incredible resource. I think it is unfortunate with their current cost modeling that they are paying each dispatch center for the cost of the product, when essentially Solano County's dispatch centers all share the same CAD interface. That just, it seems a little disheartening from my perspective that they would charge 6 times the cost, but nonetheless, it is a tremendous resource. I think Watch Duty has been a tremendous resource, is becoming a tremendous resource, but as is being said, Watch Duty is a human relied resource. It's not directly interconnected into the dispatch CAD, so it does rely on people, and it is predominantly a wildland resource. So most of our community, most incidents are not wildfires by any means. So Pulse Point has tremendously more value when it comes to the community as a bigger picture, and emergencies, they may impact the community. 80-85% of our emergencies are medical emergencies. So Pulse Point, it can accomplish that need. However, we need funding for these things. We need to get Pulse Point funded. I think Solano County, somehow we need a plan to have a singular or a fire and law independent dispatch centers and bring these resources together. That's going to tremendously reduce the cost. It's going to make business more efficient for the community and the public. Organizationally, it's going to make things more effective for the fire agencies to all be operating under a singular dispatch model. I don't know how we get there. But it is needed. So I think that's the push that we need to continue to push. And I think that products like the wildfire cameras are incredible. I know myself, whenever I hear a fire, I go to the cameras to see what the convective column's doing. Is that thing getting a header on it or not? And start reporting out to the Fire Safe Council members. It might be an area, it might be impacted. But all these resources are tremendous resources, and I do hope that we can get some movement on Fire Dispatch Center consolidated and Pulse Point implementation countywide.
Great, thank you. And Robin, I see your hands up, and then there's also a question in the chat that I was going to ask you, but go ahead and start with what you're going to comment, and then we'll go to the question. We're not hearing you yet. Well, it looks like you unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go.
I muted my computer and my Zoom somehow. So as you guys, many of you probably know, there is ongoing conversation around consolidated fire dispatch, at least, not necessarily fire and law, but it is something that has ongoing conversations. And then I'm looking into potential funding sources for Pulse Point. I recognize the value that it adds to the community as a situational awareness tool. And I do just want to highlight, and Watch Duty is amazing, and I don't mean anything negative to it, but it is not connected to the CAD. So the value that Pulse Point brings as a connection to the CAD for numerous types of complaint types versus just the vegetation fires. Not to say anything against Watch Duty. They've done some amazing things for our community. To the question, there's a question in the chat around directing directing people on how to evacuate safely, and putting notices on your homes. Please do not put a notice on your home that you evacuated. Unfortunately, there are bad people in the world that go into evacuated areas intentionally to do bad things. So the sheriff's office, I know, would back me up on this. We do not want you signifying to these folks that you're not there. So it's one of the charges of the sheriff's office to provide that law enforcement protection to an evacuation area so that your homes don't get broken into once you are asked to leave. So just a note that I'm passing on from the sheriff's office from a previous meeting we were just at. We were actually just talking about this. I'm not sure what else is meant by evacuating safely. If there's more specific questions on that, I can.
Maybe talk a little bit more about, talk a little bit more about, I think I'm feedbacking on your phone or computer, Robin. Talk a little bit more about Zonehaven and what people can expect in terms of information on how to evacuate safely. And I think you can reiterate how that works through Alert Solano. I think that's part of what that question is getting at.
You can use the map on Zonehaven to check the status of your zone. You can check it anytime, see if you're in a normal status, if you're in a warning, a shelter in place, or an order. It'll change colors. I'm sure it's going to coordinate somehow with what Watch Duty is looking at adding related to evacuation, since the majority of this area is on Zonehaven for their evacuation software. Also, it'll have information on some different other public information on things like road closures. We had, during the storms, we had our sandbag locations listed up on Zonehaven countywide. So that was cool. So there can be different pieces of information. We had been in a different meeting and somebody had asked me about whether or not their notification would include what direction to go when you need to evacuate and pre-planned evacuation routes. The question to that is, it depends on the incident. So every incident is different, unfortunately, and the circumstances are going to change pretty much every time. So we will send you that information in the message if we have that information at the time that we send the message. So the priority is the life safety. We need you to get out for your protection message. So we won't delay that message waiting for an evacuation route information. If we have evacuation route information or temporary evacuation sites or shelter locations, that would be follow-up messaging. It wouldn't necessarily come in that initial message unless we knew it off the bat. Evacuation route planning is something that's discussed with the public safety agencies. We're looking at it also in the context of the Zonehaven project that we did do countywide and seeing what kind of pre-planning we can do. The problem is that it's going to change. Every circumstance is going to change. Whether it's a flood, a fire, whatever the circumstances, or earthquake can change it. So there's only so much we can do in advance, but that is an important piece of the planning that we're working on.
Thank you. And I want to mention Revelie's comment in the chat, and we've certainly talked about this here in the past. Cell service along Pleasance Valley Road is unreliable. There are a number of dead zones between Canelo and Poodle Creek Road. And any thoughts about that? How do I know we heard in the YOLO Fire Safe Council meeting, I guess it was last month, about T-Mobile and maybe some new cell spots, but most of what we've talked about tonight relies on cell coverage and or internet coverage. And so if people have thoughts on that, please go ahead and speak up or put it in the chat. And we've got 3 people in the queue, so I'm gonna ask you to keep it kind of brief. Go ahead, Leanne.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Most of you who know me know I'm a big advocate of Pulse Point. And I wanted this group to know that as far back as last summer, I brought it up to the Board of Supervisors, and Supervisor Spearing, before he retired, looked into it. And I've not heard anything positive back about it. The other question, well, maybe it's a question for some of you. I know Solano County received $1.7 million in DOD funds. And most of that is going toward the intraoperability systems throughout Solano County. And it seems like just the pulse point fees, if they are indeed 18,000 per dispatch center, why couldn't that some of that money be used for it? Because it really is to go toward wildfire. The other thing is the ARPA funds that Solano County has received to the tune of, I think it was $900 million. Not only that, but also, you know, are all our fire chiefs and fire district chiefs on board with Pulse Point? And that is a question for all the fire.
Thanks, Leanne. So I think Robin did mention before that she is working on it through OES. And she's also put in the chat here that AT&T is working on getting a new tower along Blue Ridge. Robin, is there anything else you want to add to Leanne's question about Pulse Point and funding it? Sounds like you're actively working on that.
Yeah, we're looking into it. The challenge with those funds, Leanne, is that they're one-time funds. So getting a commitment for ongoing costs utilizing one-time funds is not something that we've traditionally had success doing. We have to find an ongoing funding source.
Thank you. Nick, go ahead.
I want to just say one thing. This is kind of outside of watch duty, but I think one thing that's very important to remember about Pulse Point is a lot of people look at it for the alerts and notifications that it can provide you. But the original premise for Pulse Point was to provide CPR for folks that were in a need nearby you. And I think it's a really good way to discuss it in your community, because that is a feature of Pulse Point. It will break through and give you critical notifications if you are CPR trained. I have had it happen to me in Reno, Nevada. I was a former EMT and I had it go off, and there's all these people running down that got Pulse Point notifications going down to the hotel lobby to try to assist somebody. So I just wanted to point that one part out about Pulse Point that a lot of people commonly forget. The other thing I want to add is we are actually connected to Pulse Point. So we do get all their stuff actually before it notifies your phone, but we only look at the vegetation fire stuff at this time. There is talk that we would evolve into other incidents in the future. And then I want to talk about one thing in the chat there, the cell service. So watch duty, the way we push our push notifications out, even if your phone does not have service, as soon as you get even a speck of service where that push notification will come through. I've seen phones with no service get the notification. I don't want to get too into the weeds on the techie side of it, but that message will sit on the tower for 16 days waiting to push to you. So it's obviously an issue, low cell service areas, but we try to do the best we can to mitigate that with the way the push notifications are set up. And then real quick on the evac stuff, if we ever post ways for people to potentially exit, it's because we've gotten that information from authorities. It's not just something that we off the cusp will report on. All our evac information is disseminated from official sources, whether that's the County of Solano in your guys' case or the Sheriff's Department, because the sheriffs are ultimately responsible in each county for evacuations, whether the fire department orders them or not. So I want to be real clear that we don't want to create any of this information. We're just disseminating it and consolidating it into a digestible form for everybody, but it is all official information originally.
Thank you for that. And good point about the push notifications. Go ahead, Rochelle.
Yes, I wanted to clarify something that Robin said regarding evacuation notices. And that is, I had a conversation with Deputy Casper from the Sheriff's Department, because the Green Valley Fire Safe Council, we had designed an evacuation door hanger that had information on the infold. And together with the Pleasance Valley Fire Safe Council, we got enough sponsorships to print those. They're actually, the residents love it. And so when I was talking to him, a lot of the areas in the rural environments where they would need wildfire tips, because that's what the inside inserts are, He said that what the sheriff's department does is they have ways of flagging so that they know that that particular home has been evacuated, but you can't really see the door or the handle. Many of them are rural and they're not right off the road like suburban neighborhoods are. So in that case, I just think it merits more conversation, because Deputy Casper actually thought that a door hanger was brilliant. Everybody, there's literally residents that have gone to the Sassoon Fire Protection District asking for more of them because their neighbor has them. And again, keep in mind, all of these people are very much in the rural environment. So I think we need to have a deeper conversation around context, and then maybe how we encourage residents to, stick it someplace where maybe it's not visible from the street or something along that line. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I was going to try to share the door hanger, but this is not allowing me to share a document. So
Thank you, Rochelle. I was not trying to discount the door hanger, and the information on the door hanger is fantastic. So yes, and I am speaking specific to a rural type environment, which is very different than like an urban type of. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. And there was, let me scroll back up. John wanted everyone to know, or as fire agencies, if your fire agencies see gaps in the camera coverage, reach out to him and they can take a look and possibly add cameras. John, can you put your email? Do you want to put your email in the chat? Or if not, Karen might be able to do that for you. And I think that's everything from the chat. David just added heart safe communities. CPR should be taught in middle high schools. Linked with Pulse Point, communities become very resilient. AED maps show locations of all AEDs. Willing volunteers get push notifications to aid in CPR. These are community-driven initiatives. This is great. This has been a really great discussion. I think this helps us see the value of this Fire Safe Council, bringing everybody together to share information, especially as we're going into fire season. So if you've got other thoughts about this, if you've got more information, send it to Karen, and between her and Sierra and the other folks with RCD, they'll get it to the Fire Safe Council's webpage, and then through all of you, we can disseminate it back out to all of your networks. So thank you for that, and I'll pass it back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Tracy. All right, that was a lot of discussion. We are creeping close to 7 o'clock, so we have our updates roundtable on our agenda, and I'm going to call on folks that I see from the various entities that normally provide updates. So Rochelle, I know that you said Green Valley Fire Safe Council would have an update. Oh, you're muted still.
I said, we have a ton of updates. So I just put 2 links into the chat. One's an article that the Daily Republic did on our shaded fuel break and our fuel break on the ridgetop. All of that will be done by the end of June, most likely done middle of the month. We've completed this in record-setting time. There's another link in there that shows a video that was just honoring Wildfire Preparedness Week with CAL FIRE, and CAL FIRE did this. And so you can all get a chance to see a little bit of the fuel break that's going on there. So I would say that, and then, just for the sake of time, I won't say anything else, but at some point in time, it'd be great to be able to share some of the resources and some of the learnings here with everyone as well, including the door hanger. And then I'll turn it back over to you, Karen.
All right, thank you. And David Stevens, does Pleasant Valley Fire Safe Council have anything to share?
I'll just share real quick. So first of all, I wanted to thank everyone that participated in the Wildfire Safety Expo. It was a tremendous success. Great showing, great community participation. Local jurisdictions, fire agencies were heavily involved in the event. Significant number of vendors showed up to participate. It was a wonderful event. We thank everyone from this group for participating in that event and showing up. Coming up in June, the Pleasant Valley Fire Safe Council will be having our annual potluck in the month of June. And it's going to be a show and tell. If you have equipment or resources that you have acquired as a property owner and you want to come show it off to how you're using it or how you might use it or how other folks may use it on their properties to protect their homes or buildings or just their properties in general, We're encouraging people to do that. And just want to thank everybody again, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, David. Robin, are there any updates that you would like to share from OES? You're still.
I don't have any other updates. I'm finding out your question to me about where people can get more information on the chipping and signage program. So I will put that in the chat when I get any.
Great, thank you. Pardon my neighbor's leaf blower, weed whacker. And also an update from Matt Seddy, who is serving as the county coordinator. He said that the county's CAL FIRE grant that they submitted earlier this year, he confirmed that they have not gotten any updates on that as of yet. So once there's information, he said that that would be shared. There are a number of fire personnel on here, and I'm going to go through folks in the order in which I see you in case you have updates to share. So we've got Scott Weiss on here from CAL FIRE.
Hello. Yeah, I don't have any particular updates. I definitely appreciate the topics. I'm a big fan of all of that stuff. And, you know, probably I'm in the battle with you guys too, because I use Pulse Point a lot, and I would like Solano County to have Pulse Point. I mean, it's amazing that I'm getting alerts on that stuff before my radio is even telling me. So it's a big plus. We are entering fire season. We're getting small fires almost every single day. So the grass is turning brown, as you guys can see. I am allowing burn piles based on where they are and what they've done. Probably will only be allowing that probably for the rest of this month, and then probably shut it down in June. But if anybody does want a burn permit, we now have an online process to do that on our website. That's it.
All right, thank you. And we will dig up that online, or we'll dig up that link to include in the recap of this meeting. Thank you. Paul Dolan, Backville Fire Protection District.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just to reiterate what was just discussed, yeah, we are entering into fire season. Most of you have been in and around Pleasant Valley have started to notice the grass has started to turn browner from what it was the week before. Yesterday, Vacaville District responded to a structure fire in the Pleasant Valley area, and it was the cause of the occupier of the home had just cut his grass and was using a propane torch to try and burn the remainder of the weeds off. And it had gotten underneath the building and it spread to the building. We managed to save the building, but not before there was some fire damage. So this fire season is looking like it's going to be busier than the previous fire season. So for those of you who are out there, please make sure that you look at your LED 100 and do your 30 and 100 foot clearance. Vacaville District will start doing LED 100 inspections, hopefully on the 4th week of May. At least that's what I've got planned, unless something else comes up. Does anyone have any questions? That's it for me then.
That's good. Thank you. And Trent Heron with Fairfield Fire Department.
Hi, how's everyone doing? No, I'm enjoying the conversation. The only way to make things better is everyone to talk and fill in the gaps and fill in the holes. And I think everything we talked about is really good. Really only updates is, yeah, kind of what everyone's saying. Weed abatement's in full swing now. The weather has shifted. The rain, I think, is gone now. So sending out all of our private landowner notices and everything in the city now to get everything abated and get the mowing starting. So that's about all we have over here.
All right, thank you. And from our partners and neighbors, Tanya Meyer, anything to share from Yolo County?
Yes, thanks for giving me this opportunity, and it's fun to hear about all these cool resources. We are busy. We are focusing on some smaller grants for roadside signs and things like that to improve safety. And we are going to be working with OES. It was fun to see Kristen here today on some more vegetation work. We're continuing to support our local fire safe councils, West Winters and Pleasants Valley. Our community wildfire protection plan is all signed, so that we're trying to decide if we want to do monthly meetings or every other month. But we're likely to have a meeting May 24th. And then this week, every third Thursday is our YOLO Prescribed Burn Association meeting. So this Thursday, a couple days from now, it'll be in Esparto at the community center from 4 to 6. So even though it's YOLO Prescribed Burn Association, if folks here are interested in learning more about prescribed burning, it'll be a planning meeting for our June burn, which will be on a ranch near Cape. And that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya. I
put our website in the chat just because it's pretty new and fun.
Thank you. Vicky Amato, you weren't on the agenda, but do you have any updates to share on the CWPP?
Yeah, I did put a note in the chat. We're wrapping up the draft document. It's currently being reviewed by Robin and her team. And then we'll be sharing it with our core team for their input before we put it out for public review. And the public review period will be from June 19th to July 2nd. And I shared a link to a survey that has a QR code that will take folks to that draft document once we have it posted. And it's a flyer that we shared at the Wildfire Expo. But if you all could help to disseminate that flyer throughout your different networks, we'll be sending out other notifications through social media and other channels, but just really want to start to drum up interest in the public review period here in June. Thank you.
Thank you. On the list also is Solano RCD. Since we have been hard at work with the Solano Fire Safe Council since the inception of this group, these meetings. I wanted to mention to all of you that we are working to figure out next steps for the bylaws, and hopefully we'll have information to share about that at our next meeting. So thank you all for your patience. I know that we all put a lot of hard work into that. We are looking to get that wrapped up sometime in the near future. Chris, is there anything else that you wanted to make sure we share? That was the only thing on my list. You are muted.
So I'm having problems with my computer at home. So I'm sitting in front of my computer with my phone in front of the computer. Anyway, no, I don't really have anything to share. This is a super informative meeting and I learned a lot and I'm looking forward to learning more. And keep pushing.
Anybody else have updates to share that I have not called on? I know we've got Kenny Doss here with Yola Solano Air Quality Management District. On here. And a few other folks.
Yeah, real quick, in regard to the AT&T tower, Vacaville District did approve it. I approved the plans a couple of months ago. I was called to County Board of Supervisors for a discussion on it, but they ended up tabling it until June. I know that there's some issues with the locals regarding the condition of the road and who's responsible for it, who are opposed to the plan. But there'll be a public discussion sometime in June. It hasn't been posted yet. That's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so if there are no other updates or questions, then we will go ahead and start wrapping things up. I'm going to remind you all that our next meeting date is set for Monday, June 19th, that being our third Monday in June. We're going to be sticking with our 5:30 to 7 o'clock timing and sticking with Zoom. The recording from today, our slides and our notes will all be available on the Fire Safe Council website, and I'll send that out along with the calendar event for the next meeting. And thank you all for sitting here with us another Monday night and learning about all these wonderful alert tools. And please make sure that that knowledge does not just sit with you, that you share that with your communities, your neighbors, members of your organization. Part of what we hope to do with this forum is share this information. And so I want to remind you all to share that information further downstream. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you in June, and let me know if there are any questions in the meantime.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen. Everyone have a good night.